Why hello, welcome back to our Dutch farmhouse. My name is Naomi and today we are working on our bedroom makeover, which is about time because we haven't done anything for our bedroom since we moved in. We actually just picked an empty room, put our bed inside, and that's it. That's all we did. So we have also decided to move into another room, so we are actually turning one of our guest bedrooms into our master bedroom. Now, something that I've always really liked are those floral patterned wallpapers, especially the neutral kind, the floral kinds. And I have been looking everywhere for a wallpaper that I liked for the bedroom, and I couldn't find one. And if you can find one, they can get really expensive, and this is a really, really big wall. So I have decided to actually paint the pattern instead, which is going to give me some advantages. First of all, I get to pick the pattern. Second of all, I get to pick all the colors, and it's going to save me money. It is, however, not going to save me any time. It is going to take a while. But before I could get started, I needed to do some preparations. This wall had a lot of holes in them with the anchors still inside, so I needed to take those out and fill up the holes with a wall filler. Now, I have tried to mimic the structure in the wall so that it doesn't look all flat when the rest of the wall is textured. And then I needed to choose a color. This is the color that we have downstairs in the living room, which is a very soft and light cream downstairs. But when you put it up to the wall here, it looks really, really dark. So that is definitely not happening. We are not using that paint. So we've got a couple of options. Actually, we have a lot of options. I think this is too yellow. I gravitate more towards this. It's a little grayish, which I like. So then we also need a secondary color for the pattern. Okay, I am going to go to the hardware store and I'm just gonna get samples. I painted some samples onto the wall because I always tell you that you have to do that, and none of them were as pretty as the color that I have downstairs. So I ended up painting everything exactly the same color as I did downstairs. So I painted that entire wall and the other walls in the room, which turned out to be a full day's work. But I will time-lapse that for you really, really quickly because you're gonna be watching me paint for the rest of the video. Now, obviously, I had to start looking for a pattern. So I simply Googled seamless patterns because it is important that it's seamless. And I looked for something that was easy to trace with a pencil, but still interesting and not too repetitive. Then when I found a pattern that I really liked, I turned it into a black and white image in Photoshop. And then I made a mock-up of the wall just to see how it would look in the room and how big I had to make that stencil. Because if you make the stencil too small, it is going to be incredibly repetitive or very, very busy. And when you make it too big, it might also not look so good. So I used a mock-up in Photoshop to determine how big I wanted my stencil to be. And then I printed it out on several sheets of paper, kind of like a puzzle made out of 4 pieces. I ordered these stencil sheets, which I think it's called Mylar. And then I put that on top of my printed pattern and then started cutting out the pattern to create a stencil. So the lighting is a little bit weird because all of a sudden it got really dark outside, so I have to put up a light, but we're gonna work with it. I have made a stencil, and when I was preparing that wall, I noticed, and that was a surprise to me because I didn't know about this when I was planning the whole makeover, but this wall is incredibly textured, which is not a problem if you're gonna paint it, but it is kind of a problem if you wanna do a pattern on it. So when I was looking for a pattern to make the stencil out of, I tried to look for something that was a little bit whimsical, something that didn't have very crisp lines, that didn't have to be incredibly precise. You can see that I didn't make perfectly smooth lines. I wasn't incredibly precise because I am not going to use this as a stencil. I am not going to put it up against the wall and paint over it because I think because of the texture in the wall, it is going to bleed through underneath the stencil and it's just going to be messy. It's going to look ridiculous. So I am actually going to use this as a guide. I am putting it up against the wall and then I'm going to trace all the lines and all the holes in the stencil with a pencil. And then I'm going to go back with paint and trace everything with a brush. So I'm going to be doing everything by hand. It's going to be a lot of work and it's going to take a lot of time. So I should probably get a good ebook and put on my headphones and get started. Right, so I was wrong. I am going to use it as a stencil. I have just tried it out on a little piece because the first part that I did, so like the first round of putting the stencil on and tracing everything, it took me so long that I figured the whole wall would probably take me 3 months. So, well, maybe less, but still a lot of time. So I thought I would try it as a stencil the way that it's supposed to be used. And that actually worked okay. I figured if anything bleeds through or anything becomes messy, I will just fix that up later. I think that is a better approach. So we're gonna do that now. Okay, so now that I'm looking at it, the left side has been done by hand and the right side has been done with a stencil. You can see that the right side has a lot more paint, so it's a lot more bold than the left hand. The left is more dainty, the left side is prettier. I'm gonna try and see if I can find a way to use the stencil and get that result instead. I had gotten special brushes for this project that are actually used for stenciling, and you're supposed to dab them onto the stencil, and I think that was part of the problem. I think the bristles of that brush would go underneath the stencil, which would make the leaves turn out bigger, thicker than they are supposed to be. So I actually continued on with a smaller brush and I would simply follow the lines of the image instead of dabbing it. And that seemed to go a lot better. So I got really far. That last bit at the end, I will finish that tomorrow because I'm tired. It is not complicated, but it is a lot of work. It just takes a lot of time. Also, the little spaces in the stencil, let me show you. Those little spaces, they are filling up with paint. So it gets harder and harder to get paint through there. So I will clean up that stencil and then it will be ready to go to continue tomorrow. For now, I am calling it a day. Good morning. It's the next day. Put on a warm sweater because it's kind of chilly in here. I am going to finish that last bit of that wall right there because I really want to move on to the decorating stage because that is the best part. Anyway, I'm going to speed this thing along for you because I'm guessing it's getting a little bit boring by now. So let's see how far I can get, and I will get back to you when I have finished the wall. I think it is looking really, really good. I did do some touch-ups on the paint, just a couple of gaps that I missed, and also I fixed all the spaces where the paint had gotten under the stencil. So now that I've done all that, it is looking really perfect. My sister was actually here this weekend and she thought it was wallpaper. Guess I did something good. Anyway, I am going to get my cabinet from our bedroom. It is a very old cabinet that I got off of Marketplace a while ago. I had actually planned on replacing the hardware on this cabinet and I haven't gotten to it yet. So while we're at it, let's go and do that too. And then we can hang our mirror and some picture frames and make it all pretty. I remember now why I didn't replace those yet. Because they leave quite the hole. And I didn't have doorknobs that would cover that hole. I actually ordered new doorknobs for this cabinet. And I haven't tried it yet, but I don't think it's gonna cover that hole. It's gonna be close. It does. Barely, but it does. Okay. I thought maybe I had to fill it up with wood filler or something, but apparently it'll work just fine. That's a hollow wall. Which I should have known. Is it even gonna work? Sunday in pouring rain. I felt kinda low. Is it all in vain? Then you hit me up and now usually when I put up a gallery wall or anything where I put multiple frames on a wall, I would cut out pieces of craft paper, for example, to the size of the frames, put that on the wall so that I can see exactly which frame has to go where and how it looks. For this particular situation, I'm not going to do that. It sounds like a lot of work. So I've actually just laid it out on the floor to see if I like the composition that I had in mind, and I did. So I'm just going to hang it up. You've already seen me put up the mirror. I'm going to put this one to the side right here, and then I'm going to add two smaller frames, one up here and one up there. You don't care what other people think of you or say, but you're so cool. You just spoil them with your love, got no doubt, 'cause you are lovely. Oh, you're so lovely. Lighting up my space, you do. So this bedroom makeover has officially started. This is only part one because it's quite the project. I won't be able to do it in like a 2-week period of time. So this wall is only the first part of the series. I am going to work on this room for the next couple of weeks, and I will of course take you with me. So stick around if you want to see what else I've got planned for this room, and subscribe if you want to see why I left that little piece of wall unpainted. Because there is a reason. For now, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.